In this week's episode, I'm joined by Tom Alexander, him, CEO and co founder at Holistic. This week, our conversation is about paychecks getting a boost, pop stars signing for change, women running the show in baseball, and more. Hey there, my name is Bernadette Smith, and I'm a keynote speaker and writer. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I bring good vibes to DEI. That is good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I found is there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of things going right. That's what I like to focus on. I search for stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these actions and policies to help you build a more inclusive world. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining me. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Tom Alexander. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Holistic. Holistic is a data-driven people experience firm. We've been around for about 7 years, and our goal is to help companies do better by their employees in every regard. So we touch every aspect of the employee life cycle. Obviously, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a big part of what we've historically been focused on and what we continue to be focused on. And we've had a great run of it. It's been a very interesting 7 years to be in the workplace. And on a personal level, I live in just outside Raleigh, North Carolina, with my wife and 3 kids, and a dog.
Awesome. Love it. Can you tell folks a little bit about what do you mean by people experience? Give us a take us a little deeper there.
Yeah. So if you go to any business leader anywhere and you ask them what's the most important element, of their business, they're all going to say the same thing, which is people, people, team culture, people, team culture. And by the way, it's not a matter of opinion. There is a right answer to that question. That is the right answer. Okay, so we're doing great so far. All right, then you start to ask them questions about how they take care of their people. And that's where we start to get into a little bit of challenging water. Do your folks trust you? I think so. Well, what about internal communication? How's internal communication at your organization? And when you ask business leaders about their people, which they said correctly was the most important aspect of their business, you start to get into this very like nebulous, wishy-washy type of response. And what we determined was it wasn't because people were lying or because they were disingenuine about their desire to serve their people. They didn't know how to speak that language. So what we do is we look at every aspect of the employee experience from before you apply until after you leave and everything in between: onboarding, performance reviews, performance management, promotion and advancement, professional development, compensation, hiring processes. Every aspect. Benefits is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And we think about how does the organization measure whether or not it's being successful, whether it's supporting its employees, whether it's building a vibrant and thriving culture. That's where we operate. So that's what we think of as people experience.
Love that. I think that it's so important, the people part, because, obviously organizations are run by people, but right now we're in such a crazy place in our society, in our culture, where there is so much division, where I think people are so afraid of saying the wrong thing. There's a lack of psychological safety within organizations. And and there's a little bit of a kind of walking on eggshells energy that comes up in interactions. And I was just on vacation and I traveled by train, and I had the opportunity to have lots of conversations with strangers in the dining car. And it was an opportunity to kind of find commonalities without having any sort of political conversation, but finding places where we can have a conversation for 45 minutes or an hour while we're eating. And so I have a tool called the ARC method, which stands for ask, respect, connect. So leading with this energy of kind curiosity and bringing that into these conversations. But I think that people are so afraid of saying the wrong thing right now because of cancel culture. I think that they're afraid of getting it wrong. I think they're afraid of accidentally offending someone. And so finding those commonalities and bringing an energy of kind curiosity, I think is lacking a little bit in the workplace these days. Have you noticed that in your conversations?
Yeah, for a variety of different reasons. I mean, the cancel culture you mentioned is part of it. The response to cancel culture is part of it. And,
Mhm.
there is a lot of disagreement out there right now. And it is challenging to um, find yourself in an extended situation where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're on the same page with people and what's appropriate and what's inappropriate and all that type of thing. And, that's why I often joke uh, that us agreeing that people are more important than ever might be the only thing that we all still agree upon. And I keep looking for a second thing, and I'm not finding it.
Mhm.
And so, but that's a great place to start, right? Are your people your most important asset? Yeah. Do you believe that people are more important than ever? For sure. Great. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And then when you center yourself around that, kind of basic truth, that basic point of agreement, it makes a lot of the types of things that you're discussing much easier.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Find and if people are the common ground, if that's the common theme, then lean into that and be values driven about it.
Yeah. I think you and I initially met, Bernadette, because a friend of yours and we have a mutual friend,
Mhm.
and I talked with Colleen and kind of shared a somewhat optimistic view of the future. And you kind of reached out like, hey, Colleen said you had some interesting kind of glasses half full thoughts about the direction that things are going. Can we talk? And, you and I had this great conversation about it. And I remember that, uh, with fondness because it was one of those conversations where I think a couple of folks were really intending to find opportunity, to intending to find areas of positivity and optimism and hope
Mhm.
and joy and all these different types of things. And too often we're in conversations where those aren't the priorities for whatever reason.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think that we have to keep thinking about how can we shine our light? How can we bring that optimism and hope? And I feel like it's all of our responsibilities over and
Yep.
over and over again.
Yep.
Um, People need it, right? And if we have the capacity to give it, I feel like there's a responsibility there.
Yeah. 100%. There's a complacency that comes as part of human life, right?
Yeah,
You can't constantly be on top level performance. You can't always be thinking about the big picture. And so we get complacent about everything, about our relationships, about our health, about our mindset.
sure.
And we also get relationship about our obligation to one another.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and so I think, these opportunities for renewed focus, however brief, where you sort of um, get in the moment and really think about sort of what's my part of this social contract? What am I bringing to the table? What do you need from me? What do I need from you?
Mm.
How can I elevate that in my consciousness and try and deliver upon that? That's a really useful exercise.
Yes. And it's about being in action, right? It's about being intentional, and I think that is, where it's gotta start. Alright, well, let's move into this week's good vibes. The first story this week comes from, is about minimum wage. So starting July 1st, more than 880,000 workers in Alaska, Oregon, and Washington, D.C., plus dozens of cities from Chicago to San Francisco, saw minimum wage increases, some topping $19 an hour. Nearly 60% of those benefiting are women, nearly half work full time. All this is notable because the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour.
So obviously, I think that folks making more money and receiving appropriate compensation for their work is great. Um, Going back to what I was saying earlier about our company being named holistic, these are holistic types of challenges. And so what I don't want to hear from anybody is a complaint about how much my Big Mac costs 6 months from now.
Mm.
I read with interest your commentary in your newsletter when you sent me this, and you said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing Bernadette, but you basically said marginalized folks are affected the most by wage disparity in this country.
Yep.
True. Let me tell you what else marginalized people are affected by more. They're affected by layoffs more. They're more susceptible to the consumer economy. The percentage of their income that they spend on, you know, transactional goods is higher, right? So this marginalization, this vulnerability is pervasive, and you see it in many different places. And so there are these challenges in terms of, especially when we get into this kind of policy mindset as it relates to solving some of these inconsistencies in the way we treat people, which is we solve problem A and everybody starts cheering and high-fiving and congratulating themselves, but they don't think about problems B, C, and D, some of which may have even been exacerbated by that particular action. And that's where you get in this kind of whack-a-mole
Mm,
type of scenario, and it can be very insidious,
yeah,
right? It was great that I gave you this money, but then 6 months from now, if you're more susceptible to a layoff than you were before, uh, in part because haven't been I was happy that you got more money, but I didn't want to be the one to pay for it.
right.
So there's a lot of that type of stuff happening as well. And there's a lot of that in the discourse, right? Who's responsible for it? Who's paying for it? All these different types of things. So generally speaking, I think that's a very positive moment. And I certainly think any attention that organizations are paying to compensation fairness is
Yeah.
valuable. Any attention that governments are paying to it, valuable. But I would like each individual person to understand their own role in supporting that type of structure as well.
Exactly. All right, the second story this week is about disability inclusion. So Starbucks had created a store that was a disability inclusive store based in DC. They have rolled out that framework nationwide. It's called the Inclusive Spaces Framework. It's been open source, so they have shared it with other companies. So Walmart, CVS, Sam's Club, Otis Elevator, and others have joined the Access Coalition to pilot this inclusive spaces framework in their own location and then roll it out. So that includes optimized acoustics, power operated doors, barrier free pathways, and accessible equipment for employees, just as a few. So, pretty big news.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love the open sourcing part of it. I
Hmm.
think there's nowhere near enough open sourcing on the part of organizations. When I was at 1871, we used to say that a big part of inclusion is that if you have a good idea, you're compelled to share it.
Yes.
It relates to like inclusion, right? That like there's no pride of ownership. There's no competitive advantage in this space. Like we're literally talking about including people. So I love the idea that corporation develops something that works and shares it and allows other corporations to take it up. I also like the fact that this is good business. Uh,
Yes.
it's just plainly evident that the motivation for doing this is to make the stores and make the buildings function better for the purposes of the business, which is great. Right. And I think this idea of like, hey, we can be inclusive, thoughtful about people, create a great experience for folks and do business at the same time. We ignore that sometimes, but we shouldn't. It should be the first thing that we talk about. So I
Yeah.
love that part of it. So, I think that I wasn't surprised to hear about this, but I think that's a great model for a company. We figured something out. We want to share it with you. You want to do it? Great. Call us up.
Exactly. And that's sort of the philosophy behind this show as well, is to take these ideas, be inspired by them, replicate them. All
Yeah.
right, the third story comes from Big Ocean, which is a K-pop boy band whose members are deaf or hard of hearing, and they are blending Korean Sign Language, American Sign Language, and International Sign into their performances. So this band has toured multiple continents, earned 1 million Instagram followers, and landed on Forbes 30 under 30 list. Very cool here.
Yeah, I really thought it was pretty neat. I mean, the internet's amazing, Instagram, all these different types of things. If you have any talent or skill or particular angle at what you're doing, this is the time in history that you want to have that.
Yeah.
And what the internet has done is really kind of leveled the playing field for folks to have opportunity and to get traction. And you just don't really necessarily know what's going to take off and what's going to be supported. So it's very kind of like uh, alluring, charming, fulfilling to see that type of response, and I love also the fact I was reading the New York Times article that you had linked to, and the people in the band are in their 20s. And,
Mhm.
essentially the premise behind what they're doing is like, hey, we have challenges as it relates to hearing. That doesn't mean for us that we shouldn't be able to enjoy music. And
Yes.
I think, that's pretty powerful when you think about it.
Yep. Exactly. There have been a lot of stories about inclusion on this show related to deaf and hard of hearing folks, including like sound suits that people can wear to experience shows. Like it's really cool what's happening these days. All right,
Yeah.
the fourth story this week comes from New York Fashion Week, where three Black-owned HBCU alumni-led fashion brands made their debut with the help of UPS's Big Motion program. So each brand received $150,000 in grants, plus the coveted New York Fashion Week runway slot to showcase their work. So Undra Celeste New York, the brand label, and Chelsea Grays. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, um, again, what I love about here is that this is underpinned by good business.
Yep.
They these folks have been facilitated an opportunity in one fashion or another to compete in the marketplace. And when they compete and they're successful, then they get all the spoils of that. And, I think that's a very sustainable approach. And when I was kind of reading about this and looking at this, essentially what they were granted is a little bit of opportunity
Hmm.
to what they've done with that is the story.
Yes.
And that's what I'm proud about them for. And that's what I hope that they're going to build upon and thrive and grow. And so, I think this model of kind of like we're giving folks breaks, we're giving them an opportunity, we're giving them a chance,
Hmm.
we're giving them an avenue to compete. That's really a good one. That's sustainable.
Absolutely. And it's been done for other groups for centuries. So why not these folks? Why not these designers? All right, and the last story this week comes from Major League Baseball, where Jen Powell became the first woman to umpire a regular season MLB game over the weekend, working the Marlin Braves games. Meanwhile, at Fenway Park, Nesson aired its first all female Red Sox broadcast with Emma Tiedman and Alana Rizzo. So, breaking some glass ceilings in baseball.
Yeah, this was the one I was personally most interested in because we are a baseball house like through and through. I'm a baseball fanatic, and my sons play baseball, my daughter plays softball. Like, you would not believe the quantity of baseball bats in this house. So, but really interesting. It's a tough time to be an umpire,
Mm,
baseball for two reasons. One is the rise of technology has essentially created a level of transparency where everybody is evaluated constantly all the time on every, to wit, Jen Powell's first call, which she called a strike, was right up there, very clearly a ball. Next year, that call would have been overturned.
mm,
And and I'm not saying it's as a criticism at all. I'm just saying it as a transparent fact, which is, and baseball is moving towards a scenario in which batters and pitchers are going to have a chance to call for a review of individual pitches.
mm.
But it's brutal, right? Imagine you go to your job and the first thing that you do, the first sentence that you write, the internet comes and evaluates it based off of whether or not it was good or not. And it's not a matter of opinion; it's a true fact or not. You're in a subjective moment by moment. So that's challenge number one for umpires. And challenge number two for umpires is that there's been this sense that umpires are um, making poor decisions in terms of their role as it relates to whether they're managing the game or whether they are like part of the show, right? And there's this
Yeah.
sense that umpires are um, a little thin-skinned, a little prone to escalation, are exacerbating challenges,
Hmm.
are sensitive to the point that they're ejecting players and things like that. As it relates to Jen Powell, one of the things that I read about her is that she historically has shown really a strong command of kind of in-game interaction
Mm.
and de-escalation and things like that. Not altogether shocking. I mean, when you read about um, success that women have in the workplace, one of the things that people talk about a lot is EQ and about the interpersonal component of things, right? This isn't me making generalizations. Like these are demonstrated scientific facts and a big reason for why diversity of perspective is valuable in these types of scenarios. So when I saw the first call that I referenced, I immediately clicked at the comments to see what was being said. And there was a lot of pretty negative, kind of cheap shots. I would describe them
Yeah,
as, and that's come with the territory. So as much progress as we've made since, like, let's say Jackie Robinson,
sure.
and however many different ceilings of all types have been broken, there are still new challenges that occur. And one of the challenges here is this, like, for lack of a better term, DEI higher toxicity that comes with these types of scenarios, right? Where it's like it's the moment you make a mistake, there are a lot of people out there who will gleefully say, that's because you're not qualified.
Yep.
And not that you're not human, you're not qualified.
I agree. Completely agree. Well, let's move into this week's Good Vibes to Go. I'll share my good vibe to go, and then I'll invite you to share yours. So my good vibe to go is my friend Julie Kratz's new book, We Want You, an allyship guide for people with power. So check out that book. I'll put it in the show notes. Tom, what is your good vibe to go?
So I saw a post on Instagram a few weeks ago. It said, go to your Notes app. And I'm a big Notes app person. I imagine some of your viewers are as well. To go to your Notes app, and at the top of a new page, right, people are always doing nice things for me, and endeavor to write one thing per day. It's been amazing experience, and I would recommend anybody doing it. And what the most interesting thing for me, there's actually been two interesting parts of this experiment, aside from the fact that people are always doing nice things for you, and it's valuable to do it. Number one is how quickly you forget. So as I'm looking through this list, that I have, I'm kind of like, oh, I totally forgot that 2 weeks ago this person did this for me, or that this person said this to me, or that this person gave me this present. Like I completely forgot it. It wasn't 12 years ago. It was last Monday. Because that's how fast our lives are working, right? So there's value in remembering. And the second part of it was, after like a week and a half, I got super frustrated with having to scroll through all the old ones. And I'm doing this wrong. I should be putting the new one at the top, and then I don't have to go through all this crap, right?
Sure.
So I did that for a couple of days, and then I was like, no, man, you're missing the whole thing. The scroll is the value. Remembering, it's 2 seconds. But it's 2 seconds of immersing yourself in something that's valuable and energy giving. And thinking about the implications of helping yourself remember and helping yourself be able to kind of take a bath in your success a couple of times a day. Really going to help everybody's mindset as we move forward.
Love it. And we need that healthy mindset to have the energy to keep moving forward and keep shining our lights. All right, Tom, thank you so much for being my guest today. Can you tell folks how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Holisticindex.com is our website. My email is tom@holisticindex.com. We love everything. We love inquiries. We love referrals. We love ideas. We love potential new clients. We love new collaborators. We love everything at Holistic.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Folks, if you don't already get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to 5 Things in 15 Minutes. I hope you found yourself inspired by at least one of this week's stories. If you did, would you mind sharing it with a colleague and leaving us a review on your favorite podcasting platform? And if you don't already get my 5 Things newsletter, join at 5thingsdei.com. I'm Bernadette Smith, and I'll see you next week right here for 5 Things in 15 Minutes, bringing good vibes to DEI.